Now we have a very difficult winter ahead of us. Millions of people in the UK are going to be struggling for money with the cost of living going up. So food prices, fuel prices, whether it's for your house or whether it's for your car, they're going through the roof. And can people actually afford to live? They're also talking about a shortage of turkeys at Christmas. Now that will be putting the icing on the cake, won't it? So what happens if we've got unexpected costs for repairing our gas boilers? Are we going to be able to heat our homes? So in this video I'm going to give you a few tips to hopefully help you be able to keep your boiler running longer, so we don't have this massive expense of replacing a boiler until the world sorts itself out and we can start affording to live. So let's get on with it and find out exactly how we're going to be able to keep these old boilers running. Now, if your boiler looks like this one, which is an old floor standing cast iron heat exchanger balance flue regular boiler, then it probably will be more cost effective for you to replace this old beast than trying to keep it running. Now, a lot of the spare parts for this boiler now are obsolete, and also a lot of these old boilers have asbestos in them, especially in the seals and the protection from heat. Gas engineers are not allowed to work on these because of the asbestos content. Just bear that in mind first. Actually, is your boiler that old that like this one is over 30-40 years old, then it might not be cost effective to keep it running, and it will save you more money replacing it. This boiler, if you ever listen to it actually run, it kettles that mad, it's probably down to about 30-40% efficient rather than a new condensing boiler which should be 92% efficient. So if your boiler does look like this one, then my advice will be get rid of it and get a new one if you can afford it. And if you can't afford to do that, keep your fingers crossed that it doesn't break down over these winter months, because we might not be able to repair them. But what can we do if our boilers are less than 20 years old then? Now, just bear this in mind. Even though this is a combi boiler, it's a non-condensing boiler, and even this boiler is over 20 years of age. But it's alright saying if your boiler is over 20 years of age, and the government actually advise if your boiler is over 10 years of age, consider changing it. Most boilers now are designed to last between 10 and 15 years. But how can we make it last that long? Well, first of all, let's talk about annual servicing. Now, because of everybody's going to be short of cash, I guess the first thing that's going to go is people having their boiler serviced. And also servicing. There's two different types of servicing. There's a full strip down service, or there's a service where a gas engineer will just rack up and use one of these little devices, which is a flue gas analyzer, and they'll stick it in the test point and analyze your boiler and walk away. That's not a service. That's a nothing. Actually taking the cover off, having a look inside, cleaning any filters, cleaning the condensate trap out if you've got a condensing boiler, and checking for any leaks or wear or tear on the inside of the boiler is key when you're having a service. If the engineer is not taking the cover off, then you're wasting your money. Basically, you should be looking, I would say, if you're paying less than £100 for a service, that's not what you want. You want a top quality service done where the engineer comes in, spends the time stripping the boiler, cleaning the boiler. Not every boiler needs stripping and cleaning every year though. Some of them are on a 4 or 5 year cycle, but actually going in and checking it and making sure it is going to last through the winter is key part of servicing. So besides servicing, what else do we need to do? Now that leads me into the next one. Magnetic filters. Now, all new boilers now should be fitted with magnetic filters to protect the boiler from sludge and magnetite corrosion from the heating system, to keep it nice and clean inside, because a dirty boiler is an inefficient boiler. So these will help you keep your boiler efficient and keep it going for longer, because if your boiler is full of sludge, it's not going to last very long. Now, do you need to be a gas engineer to install one of these if you don't have one? Well, technically, no, you don't need to be a gas engineer. You just need to be competent at doing pipe work, because you're not going inside the boiler to do any work there. Then you technically don't need to be gas safe registered. But if you do think you are capable of putting one in, then put one in. If not, when you have your boiler serviced, get your gas engineer to give you a quote for supplying and fitting one of these, because it will give you that peace of mind that it will be done correctly, because you can install these in the wrong location. Magnetic filters are key to keeping your boiler going longer. Now, these magnetic filters are the last line of defense to protect your boiler from magnetite, sludge and corrosion. It's your water quality inside your system that you need to be worried about, and there are loads of different tests out there on the market what you can buy to actually test the water quality of your central heating system, because that is key. And if your water quality is great, then technically do you need a filter? So every service now, your engineer should be checking the water quality of your central heating system, and also if you have a filter, they should be actually cleaning that as well. So when you're asking an engineer how much does it cost for a service, ask them first what is actually involved in my service, because you could see a service at 50 quid where they just put the flue gas analyzer in, or you could see a full service of 120, 130 quid where they're checking everything for you and giving you that extra peace of mind. So after you've had your water quality checked and your filter cleaned, make sure you add inhibitor into your system. Inhibitor will inhibit the corrosion in the system, which will actually help this not actually do anything. So also in your service, make sure your engineer is putting some more inhibitor in. There are loads of test kits out there as well which will tell the engineer how much inhibitor is in the system and how much they need to put in. And again, that's going to cost more money. So again, in your asking for how much does it cost for the service, make sure they're putting some inhibitor in for you as well, because it's all going to help prolong the life of your boiler, because having the boiler replaced is a lot more expensive than having a bit of inhibitor in your system checked every year. Now, one of the other parts of the boiler we need to protect from sludge is our plate-to-plate heat exchanger. This is what takes the heat from the main heat exchanger and turns the cold water coming into the boiler into your hot water going out your taps. So as well as protecting your radiators and your central heating system, we also need to protect this little thing if you've got a combi boiler from the sludge and magnetite also. But one of the things we don't think about here in the northwest about protecting this from is Limescale. Now, there's a lot of engineers out there who do have to consider protecting the plate-to-plate heat exchanger from Limescale, and also the main heat exchanger. Little things like this are about. Again, this is a magnet, but what this magnet does is, instead of catching magnetite, it somehow chemically turns the Limescale into something that doesn't stick and it just comes out of your tap. But we don't really fit these. We've got to consider these if you live in a hard water area. Now, they don't just have to protect combi boilers by using these. You can put this in your mains cold, and you can actually protect things like this little unvented cylinder here of hot water from Limescale. I'm guessing if you put this on your mains in your house coming into your house, will it protect your kettle from Limescale also? I know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But these little things need to be considered to also protect the boiler from the water quality of the town's mains coming into it. As well as little things like this prolonging the life of your boiler, there are some simple things we can do to make these boilers last even longer. And that is actually getting them sized correctly and set up correctly for the house they're installed in. If we've got a 30 kilowatt boiler, we might not need 30 kilowatts for central heating. So this boiler could be range rated down to the kilowatts required for the house. So a simple heat loss calculation by an engineer would be able to allow them to range rate this down, which will cut down on boiler cycling. That means the boiler going on, off, on, off, on, off all the time, and allow the boiler to run at a lower temperature. Things like weather compensation as well will also help this by automatically reducing the flow temperature dependent upon what the temperature is outside. So actually making the boiler work less will prolong the life of your boiler. Now, another common cause of boiler breakdown is incorrectly installed condensate pipes. So this condensate pipe is not installed correctly and is likely to freeze in winter. So if you don't want a frozen condensate pipe in winter and boiler breakdowns, then make sure your condensate pipe is insulated. Now, these are the main things we should be looking at to make sure that these boilers are going to definitely last at least 15 years of age. Now, boiler manufacturers also have to supply spare parts for the boilers 10 years after they are finished with the production line. So even if your boiler is 10 years old and it was stopped being manufactured 5, 6, 10 years ago, then you should still be able to get spare parts, but only for boilers that are over 10 years old. Don't think about the ones which are 20, 30, 40, 50 years of age. They are the ones which are causing lots of problems. So, hope you liked the video. Catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.